Hey everybody, Dr. Imholt again. And today the doctor part matters because somebody recommended this show called The Three Body Problem over on Netflix. And three body problem to a physicist is a very specific problem I will not bore anybody with. And I think it's going to be in the show anyway, so maybe we'll get to it later. But I watched the first episode and I'm interested. I'm intrigued. There's a lot of interesting things going on. There's a lot of people you recognize from things like Game of Thrones, a few other places. But the problem is about these astrophysicists and some particle physicists in one case having a problem and some nanophysicists. But it's also a little bit more than that. But there's a couple of interesting things about it. First, the personal lives of scientists are not something a lot of people ever think about, right? They're like, oh, it's a scientist. He never goes outside his lab. He just wears a coat or she. And that's it, right? No, that's not the way it works. We have lives outside of the lab. It does happen. They let us free on occasion to go forth and intermix with everybody else. And the other people look at us like we're weird because we are. But this one scene had a couple of female PhDs in physics in a karaoke bar of all things. And this guy came up and kind of hit on him. And he's like, "Oh, so are you going to sing?" And they're like, "No." Like, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" "Oh, I'm working on nanofiber," and just goes into this diatribe of things that I understood and a few other people probably did, but let's just face it, most people don't. And the one next to her said the same thing about particle accelerators and something that just went on for a while. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, I get that. PhD. I mean, I could translate all that to English if anybody really wants you to. Like, I could tell you personally, I work on um, finding ways to predict patterns inside complicated data sets. Or I could tell you, I work on things in the field of predictive analytics using advanced calculus, differential equations, third order partial differential equations, and other fun things just thrown in there for good measure. And we could go on for 20 minutes and describe the mathematics. Or I could tell you, I find signals inside really noisy data sets, and it's a lot easier to understand. So, but the fun part was the guy had this look in his face like, okay, I don't know where to go with that. And he just kind of turns around and scurries away. And I've seen that happen in real life. I used to work on campus at MIT, and I would travel on occasion with some of the scientists from there to go to conferences and whatnot. And I've seen that kind of thing happen in airports. It's freaking hilarious. I have had people I've been talking to who asked me what I do for a living, and I was trying to get out of the conversation, and I would go into grotesque detail about the scientific gobbledygook that it is, and they kind of leave me alone. Or I can tell you the easy version, and it makes sense. And there's nothing wrong with people who don't understand science. I went to school for a long time to understand that crap, and I'm quite sure doctors, lawyers, mechanics, nurses, administrators, accountants, tax, you name it, and people inside their own industry have their own vernacular of things. Physicists just sound weirder, but because we are. But there's another interesting point to the show that there's this Chinese group that's trying to send signals to outer space to make contact with some alien races. And I think I know where they're going with this. I've seen a couple of sci-fi shows do this sort of thing, and I've questioned it myself. Humans have made attempts to send signals into outer space to contact alien races. Um, we haven't gotten an answer. The question though comes up when you're trying to contact these races. What language do you do it in? Because they may not speak the same one you do, and they may not get it. And you may be saying something that's a threat, because I know the way I say stuff in Texas is not the same as what you would say in Massachusetts, and that's inside the same country, speaking sort of the same language. And in one state, it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. And in another state, that's fighting words, right? So it's completely different. And how would you do that with an alien race? And how do you not sound threatening for sure? If you're contacting an alien species. And if they have the ability to answer and maybe send some people, are they more advanced than us? And does it really hurt when they show up? So do we really want to make contact, or do we want to just maybe err on the side of caution on occasion and wait for them to call us? But yeah, it's an interesting program so far. So I'm really enjoying it. I've only seen one episode. I'll watch the rest. But if you get the chance, check it out. At least look at the preview for it. It's intriguing to say the least. And Samuel Tarly is in it. He's not playing Samuel. He plays a PhD in physics. But interesting show. So enjoy yourself.